Cowboys and Giants meet again, this time on the monumental stage of Monday Night Football. Dak Prescott hopes to saddle up and lead the charge to pull away with the lead in the NFC East. They'll have to lasso the young Daniel Jones, who's coming off his best game. Time to get ready and get rowdy for a division rival dating back decades. Cowboys, Giants, it all starts now on Pregame Live.
The Dallas Cowboys pregame show, live from the Star in Frisco, is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Academy, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
Good evening, everyone, here on this Monday night. Welcome into the Star in Frisco for Pregame Live. We are getting you set for Cowboys Giants Monday Night Football on ESPN, and you can see with me now. We're going to have a great show. Daryl Moose Johnston, Barry Church, right here on set with me, guys. Glad to have you here and get your thoughts on this team. You're both up at the Star so much during the week. You're on shows, podcasts, right? So this is second nature.
Actually, jump in on another one.
Second home.
Second home right here at the Star. All right, this is the second time around already for Cowboys Giants. Of course, they hung 35 on the Giants, guys. But from what you've studied this week, this is definitely going to be a different go this time around. And heck, they've got a new quarterback now.
Absolutely, and that's one of your big dangers is when you come around that second time on that divisional opponent is to try to go back to that first game and draw a lot of comparisons, because even if the roster stays the same, the teams grow and develop during the course of the season. So this is a very different Giants team than the Cowboys faced in Week 1, and you're going up to MetLife Park, so that's going to add a little bit to it as well. So yeah, don't go back to that opener and think that it's going to be anything like that.
Don't go back to the first time they played at MetLife, right?
At all.
This year.
At all. Like Daryl said, you can't sleep on the Giants. I mean, they got a more confident rookie quarterback than they had Week 1. They had Eli going in there Week 1. And you can't sleep on Saquon Barkley, Evan Engram, that offense. It's a powerful offense. Our defense has struggled a little bit in these past couple games, so I'm interested to see what they can accomplish here this week. Yes,
we are going to go out to MetLife here shortly, hear from our guys from DallasCowboys.com and Stephen Jones coming up in the show. But I want to get back to the names you just named. Saquon Barkley, Evan Engram, who always seems to do well against the Cowboys, and this time around they're adding Golden Tate and Darius Slayton into the mix. So are these some weapons that you're concerned about, or are you more looking at, hey, Cowboys, you need to bring your A game tonight?
No, for me, the biggest thing when you're on the road in the division is to start out well. So for me, it's going to be the start of the game. I would love to see some of the things they did in Philly before they went into the bye week. With the defense getting them on the short field, can the defense get them on the short field again? If they can't, can special teams get them on the short field? You've got to get a break early on. If you can take that crowd out of it, I know a lot of people talk about being able to take the crowd out of a game, and some people kind of downplay that a little bit. But to me, it's critical when you have a divisional opponent on the road. So a quick start is one of the most important things for the Cowboys tonight. Nice, clean start to the game.
I'm definitely agree with you on the quick start. Now, we've seen when they had that 3-game losing streak that, the slow starts were heavily attributed to that. But for me, what I'm looking forward to see how Rod Marinelli's defense confuses the young quarterback back there. They're kind of a two-shell high defense, but they like to confuse by disguising their coverages pre-snap. So I wanted to see what he will be able to do with that and what this defensive line pressure will be able to do against Daniel Dimes.
You bring up the defensive line pressure, and there was just a lot of pressure around the Star this week with Michael Bennett in the house after the Cowboys made that trade for a 7th-round pick. Could turn into a 6th in the years to come. But, guys, you're both Cowboys. You know that the national spotlight is always on this team. But this, to me, says, hey, low risk, high reward. But, of course, there was just so much attention all week on this. To be expected, right?
Without a doubt. The biggest thing is, Barry hit on it, being able to get pressure, with that defensive front. That's what Rod Marinelli's defense has always been based off. Just the down four being able to get to the quarterback, get him off his spot, not having to rely on bringing secondary pressure, linebacker pressure. They haven't been able to do that during the course of the season on a consistent basis, even with the addition of Robert Quinn. So bringing in Michael Bennett, I'm interested to see exactly where he fits in. I wouldn't be surprised to see him more on the inside in the passing down situations as opposed to kind of a rotation combination with DeMarcus and Robert Quinn. I think he's very underrated as an interior guy. I think you look at his size and sometimes you think, well, how is he going to do down inside with all those big bodies? But his quickness and his technique is very strong. I think he plays very, very well on the inside as well.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go with you on that inside, him being on the inside. Like you said, you have D-Law out there and you have Quinn, who pretty much bookends out there, who get pressure on the edge very good. But the interior of this defensive line hasn't been able to put up a lot of pressure against quarterbacks. I mean, you got Malik Collins in there, and the loss of Tyron Crawford is huge for the interior part of this D-line. So when you're adding a Michael Bennett into the picture, a guy who's a high motor guy, high energy guy, doesn't loaf on the field, he's always after the quarterback, I think that'll just prove dividends for this defense and help this defense overall.
And here's what the rest of the Cowboys defense had to say. Michael Bennett was laying low here at the start this week, but his teammates were quick to talk about him.
Like, this ain't my first time playing with him. I got a chance to play with him at the Pro Bowl, and you know, just by the knowledge and what he acquired over his years, and being able to bring that here, it's a blessing. So we thankful.
He's real. He's real. So you got to respect that. You know, a guy who you know, says what he feels, and you know, just he speaks from the heart. So it's it's a different caliber player. It's a guy that we appreciate and just happy to have on our team. Looking forward to getting after him for sure.
Like he plays for the edge. Is that what you like? What you need? This defense needs a guy who plays for the edge.
He plays with an edge, tenacity, full confidence in himself. He's never out there doubting. So you need that. It's all about building that trust factor now. Being a part of the D boys. We know how we want to play the game. So
yeah, to come in and stay true to who we are as a defense, and obviously again we have history within this system in him. And he has championship pedigree. He's always been a fantastic teammate, and we're absolutely fired up to have him.
I mean, every moment, every game, every second is precious. You don't want to say we got tomorrow because tomorrow is not promised. So while you have a guy like Mike Bennett, that they're willing to trade, as you see, they didn't wait around. They took advantage of it, brought in another great piece. End of the day, with me and this, the organization, I'm sure I can speak for everyone. Just it's time to win, not just regular season. You know what time it is.
And quarterback Dak Prescott, guys, said, the first thing I said to him was, I'm glad you're not going to be tackling me anymore. Because he did a little bit of that in the division. But Robert Quinn, the final guy we just saw there, he gets a sack tonight. He gets an $800,000 bonus. He seems like he blasted onto the scene and he did more than I expected. Not going to lie.
I don't know, boy. He's good. When they were rolling in St. Louis, he was a key to that whole thing. And I liked what he said at the end right there. It's time to win.
Yes.
And not in the regular season. It's time to do what a lot of people have expected the Cowboys to do here for the last couple of years. It's got an opportunity to happen when you add that other piece to the other side. And you just go back and look at some of the great defenses. Mm-hmm. They had guys coming from both edges.
This is true.
And I remember how much better Tony Tolbert got when we brought Charles Haley in here. DeMarcus Lawrence will be better with Robert Quinn. They'll all be better with Michael Bennett inside, and then Malik Collins, as you pointed out. So, but I love the fact that he said, it's time for us to win. That's what this is about. We're making a commitment. The organization sees the window, and we're going to go for it.
Completely agree. Let's go to the inactives and look at who is down for the Cowboys. If you are on social media, you already saw it. Leighton Vander Esch will be sitting tonight, and no really other big names besides Cameron Fleming. He was a definite out this week, but Tristan Hill, we'll get to that in a second. But guys, what does this mean? Barry, I know you can talk about Sean Lee playing weak side linebacker, and I think the more Sean Lee gets to play and get in the groove, the more vintage Lee you call him we get to see. So we'll see that tonight.
We'll see it tonight. I'll be first row looking at that. I mean, that's my guy, vintage Lee out there. And like you said, once he gets more and more reps and more involved in the defense, he seems to get better and better. As we saw last week when he filled in, or for not last week, but the week before when he filled in for Vander Esch when he was down. I mean, the guy seemed to be all over the field. He played with the speed, the ferocity, with physicalness. And I think that'll continue this week as this game goes on. I'm looking forward for Lee to take over.
Jason Garrett mentioned how critical he was in space against the Philadelphia Eagles with that tackling. And one of the guys that's really kind of under the radar on this roster, Joe Thomas.
Absolutely.
I've been a Joe Thomas fan for a long time.
It's huge.
Going back to his days at Green Bay. I mean, don't forget, that gives him some snaps on the field now, too. I think Joe Thomas is a very underrated football player.
Very underrated. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
He's very
Joe
underrated.
Thomas is like, he gets the offseason awards. He gets the points in the locker room whenever they do well each week. So people are a big fan of Joe Thomas, and he I feel like he does doesn't get enough praise.
At all. I mean, he's a great cover linebacker, so when they pull out their dime packages and stuff like that, he can watch the tight ends, which will allow the safeties to kind of sit back there and read the quarterback and get interceptions that way. So he's a valuable piece of this defense.
I want to ask you guys quickly before we move on, second-round pick Tristan Hill, obviously inactive. It's been a lot of weeks we haven't seen much from him, and obviously this past week was sent home for being late to a meeting coming out of the bye. I know he's young, but at what point do you kind of say, hey, we need to see more out of this guy, and we need to see more real soon?
Oh, I think they're already at that point.
They're at that point. All right, this year.
Yeah, no, exactly. The thing that makes it harder for Tristan right now is the fact that not only is he not on the field, but that pick, a lot of people wanted to go safety. Juwan Thornhill is in Kansas City. Sure. He had started every single game. He's putting up statistics. So a lot of people will go back to that. So that makes it even harder for Tristan because he's got a comparison out there where they could have gone in a different direction, who's playing very well right now.
That's anytime that you hear about news, Jason Garrett's very private about these things. And so the fact that that got out, I think, was sending a message to not only Tristan, but the rest of the locker room at this point of the season. All right, guys, if you haven't already, you need to download the free-to-play part of the Cowboys app. You just go in, you pick your picks before each quarter, and you can win cash. Got to be 21 to play, obviously, but go ahead and do that. Don't hold out. Just go do that before the game and set a reminder to do it at the start of each quarter. Let's move back to the focus. Jason Garrett, let's look at the numbers he's had. Coming out of the bye week, you won't be too surprised to see that he is 4-4, hanging out right there in the middle. But coming out of the bye week, is it a myth to you guys that you lose momentum? I mean, you're players, you can tell me. Or are you glad to have that week off, or do you wish you kept playing after the Philly performance that they had?
I think in the playoffs, it's a little bit more true when teams that are hot and they have to go that wild card route. I think a lot of times you see those wild card teams get on a run. But if you're a team that's really been playing well through the course of the second half of the season, you don't mind getting that bye. What Jimmy was always afraid of when I was playing was going into the bye, the distraction of the team thinking about what they were going to be doing that weekend and coming out and having a poor performance. We were good coming back from the bye, but Jimmy's biggest concern was our performance going into the bye. So they had a fantastic game going in. You ride that momentum all the way out. You know you got a divisional opponent on the road. I don't expect it to be an issue at all.
And getting up for a Monday night game as well, Barry, I mean, that's something that you were doing just a couple years ago. It shouldn't take much to get excited for tonight.
Not at all. I mean, you see the prime time, you see the lights out there. You're in MetLife Stadium, so you're at the mecca of the media world. I mean, everybody's there. You have celebrities there. I mean, to get up for this game, you shouldn't have to. I mean, you should be able to fight and for the pride, for your name on the back of your jersey. So, I mean, these guys probably have no type of lost my train of thought, but they should have
nothing's
no type
holding
of,
them back. It shouldn't be holding them back. Let's hear what QB1 Dak Prescott had to say coming out of the bye week, keeping this momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, it starts here at practice. Starts in the way that we come in each and every day and approach our work and approach the business that we have to handle. So we've done a great job at it. Just the mentality, the focus, the mindset this team has taken, that momentum will continue to grow. We'll continue to get better and take those next steps.
What's the mentality have to be successful on the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's you versus the world mentality, and you have to thrive under those conditions. You want to go in there and you want to make the big play and hit the silence. So I mean, I think that's just something you just kind of have. And if you don't, then we've got enough guys on this team that can get these guys going and make sure that you have that mentality. You go in, you start fast, you don't give them any hope, and you just stay on top of them.
During a bye week, physically and mentally, how do you recharge?
Yeah, I mean, got to get away from it from a little bit. As I did, took a couple of days off. But for the most part, me personally, I mean, I just like to work. When we're here, it's all work. It's all getting better, individuals, whatever it is. But it was great for this team, as you said, getting some guys healthy, allowing them to rest and take some time.
Well, Dak Prescott will have Jason Witten back out there with him this week. A year ago right now, he was in the booth for Monday Night Football getting ready for the Cowboys, and I know the crew met with Witten last night to discuss how things have changed. Here is Danny Sarek, who has more on Jason Witten and his return to the Cowboys.
Monday Night Football games aren't out of the ordinary for tight end Jason Witten. He's played in a handful through his 16-year career. However, every Monday last year, he was in the booth as an analyst with ESPN. When Witten retired in 2018, he immediately signed on with ESPN. However, just 1 year later, decided to come back to football and signed a one-year deal with the Cowboys. Witten says as he prepares to play on a Monday night again, he looks back at how the broadcast experience made him a better person.
Have so much respect for that hard-working crew. You know, I got the experience for
across the NFL for 17, 18 weeks last year. So it'd be good to see some of those guys say hello, and definitely appreciative of that friendship and how hard those guys worked.
Witten is a student of the game. He's regarded as one of the smartest, most dedicated players in the locker room. It should come as no surprise his favorite memory as an analyst is about the history of the job.
It's just learning the rich history of the people that were fortunate enough to sit in those chairs, you know what I mean? And then you have an opportunity to be there, and I think that was probably the highlight of mine. So the first time that I ever did it, the Oakland Rams game, and being at the Oakland Coliseum and thinking about, man, all the guys that came before me.
Quinn says he didn't think the last game of 2017 would have been his last at the time. However, there are just some opportunities that are too good to pass up.
I don't have any regrets because I think I'm better because of that experience. I do think there was moments throughout that I thought something inside of me was just like, I should still be playing football. I have more to give. And, maybe that opportunity forced my hand. And if I could go back, I would say just trust your instincts of you'll get other opportunities, you'll have things, but this is what you love to do, and you still have ability to give to it.
Quinn says when he returned to football, he told himself to make sure he stays in the moment. For him right now, that just means helping this team get to 5-3. Quinn says he's very appreciative of the opportunity to come back to the Cowboys and play football because this is what he wants to do, and this is where he needs to be. Lindsay.
Thank you, Danny. We will check in with you. And you hit the nail on the head. This is where he wants to be, and you've both been around Jason Witten for so many years. What about him just makes him different than just the average guy in the locker room?
Oh, God, there's so many things. He's been amazing to my whole family. We stop and talk. He's taken pictures with my son from the time he was little to the time he's grown up. It's so fun to see him. He's a class act. There's certain guys who are ambassadors not only for their team, but for the entire NFL, and that's one of the guys you're looking at right there. And one of the things I love doing is when you walk through the Star here and you see the three NFL Men of the Year who are represented by the Cowboys organization, and it's Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, and Jason Witten. I think that's an outstanding trio for this organization.
Being back on this team. It's not only, he's not blowing up the stat book or anything, but leadership alone. I mean, he's showing this young tight end core and this young team overall just how to become professionals and how to be a pro's pro. I mean, you never hear about Witten outside of football, being in trouble or anything like that. So I think his just leadership role on this team has provided much dividends.
Going into last season, the tight ends group had 9 catches as a whole in the National Football League, and they really got a chance. Blake Jarwin, you saw the last time he played the Giants last year, 3 touchdowns at the end of the season. They really got to flourish, but talking to those guys, saying now that he's back in the film room, it's making a difference again. We're growing again. We're learning so much more again. And Monday Night Football is a great place to just check it all out and see these teams on display. And what's different? Is there anything different about primetime? It seems like I had a friend text me today and say, hey, girl, seems like the Cowboys are on every week in primetime. Just used to it.
Well, there's more opportunities, and I hope that hasn't taken away from the special part of Monday Night Football. But you can be on Thursday night, you can be on Sunday night, you can be on Monday night. When we played, there was just Monday Night Football. So I hope it hasn't lessened the excitement and the meaning for the guys that are playing right now, because for me, that's something I grew up with as a kid. And we didn't have all the sports shows to find out exactly what had transpired over the course of the weekend. So you got all your information at halftime on Monday night with Howard Cosell. So it was
these
awesome.
Throwback photos.
Awesome.
Loving these. Don't worry, Barry, you're next.
I'm loving the shoulder
Talk to me
pads.
about some Monday
I know, right?
memories.
I walk around today and I'm like, God, we really had big shoulder pads.
Yes, like monsters of the gridiron. Barry, any memories from Monday Night Football?
I just love Monday Night Football as a whole. I mean, when you go out there, the lights are shining on you. You know you're the only game on that afternoon. I mean, you got your whole family watching back home. I mean, it's prime time for a reason, and it just feels great to go out there and play under the lights. As you see me right there in New York, getting ready to play on a Monday night game.
Yeah, I remember when you were playing there, Jay-Z on the sideline.
Yeah,
I mean, like you said earlier, New York is wild. Like, you never know who's going to show up.
It's the mecca for media, so I'm sure these guys are ready to go for this primetime matchup.
All right, let's do it. We are ready. Let's go out to MetLife and check in with Rob Phillips and Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com and get our first update. What is up, guys?
Thanks, Lindsay. Greetings from MetLife Stadium. And Nick, I'm glad Jason Garrett kind of changed up the practice schedule this week, couple days practicing outdoors, got us ready for this. This, it's a little chilly, a little windy. This is the Meadowlands. This is November football. This is like an NFC East type of grinded out feel tonight.
Definitely, and you're right. There was a lot of talk about, Thursdays are usually indoors, or Fridays. Thursday feels like a Friday, but it's a Saturday. I mean, I don't know. I'm just glad it is Monday night. We know this now. It's Monday night, and we're here, like you said, and it is windy, and we were watching a little bit of Brett Maher warming up. Of course, last time we were here, the only really good thing that happened out of that was a 62-yard field goal by Brett Maher. But it'll be interesting to see tonight just how well he kicks in this, how well the Giants kick in this thing, because it's always kind of swirling in here, and a game like this could come down to some field goals.
We talk about every year there's always a game you think you should win and you don't win. I think that for the Jets game, this team feels that way a couple weeks ago. What has to change different for the Cowboys to do basically play like they did against the Eagles before the bye?
Well, get their starting tackles in the game.
Yeah,
which I think that's going to happen. I mean, that was a big key to that Jets game for sure. Anytime you get down that many players, you start to get to that level, and that's what they did. But they just didn't get off to a good start, like you said. They've got to get off to a better start tonight, and I think they will. I think that they'll do that. So it'll be really interesting to see what that first quarter goes. That's a key for me.
Absolutely. And can they continue forcing turnovers? Daniel Jones, Giants quarterback, that's been a habit of his early on this season. All right, defensively, I know you've got a player watching tonight. Give it to me.
Jeff Heath. Jeff Heath is a guy. Last week we didn't know what was going to happen at safety. Are they going to get Jamal Adams? Is it going to be for Heath?
Yeah.
Now he's still the guy, and I know a lot of people are frustrated by that. But last time we were here, 92-yard touchdown, and a lot of it was on Jeff Heath. He's got to be a guy that doesn't give up those big plays, and that's one way the Giants can win this game is get some big plays at receiver. He's got to be his best as that center fielder type guy. Who's your guy?
Flip it around to the offense, and I'll go with Michael Gallup. And the Giants have allowed 6 100-yard receivers this season. 2 of them are on the Dallas Cowboys, Amari Cooper and Gallup. And we go back to the last game at MetLife. He had some balls go right through his fingers, but he was really productive against the Giants in the first game. I think he had a big second half of the season last year. I think he's primed for that this year.
Yeah, when you look at his stats right now, he's on pace for about 1,200 yards. So he's had some really good moments there. Not a good one, like you said, the last time that they faced it. He was here in this stadium. So him and Cooper together, they should be good to go.
Good enough. Thanks, Nick. Back to Lindsay and the crew.
Thanks, guys. We will check in with you later on. I saw Jerry behind you over your shoulder. We will talk to Stephen Jones later on. Zeke out there. I don't know how cold it is. I think it's 50s, so not too cold. But obviously, the run game on the road has been huge for the Cowboys for however many years it's been now. But here's a look at Zeke's numbers and what he's done. And are you guys happy with what you've seen so far this season?
Well, I think there's a new dynamic when you bring in Tony Pollard. So I think they've been trying to figure that out. And then you also have to remember that Zeke got off to a slow start because of the holdout, especially week 1. So those numbers are going to skew a little bit there. But I always go back to what Rick Oswald always says. That is the guy that drives this offense. So there's a certain number that you're trying to get to. And I would like to see him over 20 plus every week. I really would. And then try to find out how you add Tony Pollard into that mix. But I think he's one of those unique guys where the more you feed him the football, the better he gets, the stronger he gets, the more he sees the matchups that are up front, the more he's going to make the defense pay because he sees how the blocking is developing during the course of the game.
Only 3 games of over 20 plus carries this season, Barry.
I definitely feel like he should get the ball 20 plus times, especially during this game. Not only does he settle the offense down as you run him the ball, but he can also get the offense on track, but it punishes the defense. And me as a defender, late in that third quarter, early in that fourth quarter, I do not want to go against a guy just pounding a rock each and every down. I mean, it kind of weighs on you as a defender, and you kind of just, let me shy away from this guy a little bit. So I think he should wear down this defense and get 20-plus carries.
That has been the spotty part of the Giants team is their secondary, their defense. So hopefully the Cowboys can attack in both ways tonight. But here's Ezekiel Elliott assessing himself on how he's done after having no training camp going into this season.
I've been solid. I think I've had a solid year. Definitely could pick it up some more, and just definitely looking to get into a groove early in this stretch, so I can keep it going through the end of the season.
Do you feel you've gotten into a groove yet, comparable to what you've had your first 3 years here?
I think I have gotten to a groove. I would say last game was the best I felt this season. So, I mean, just, like I said, building on top of that and just keeping that thing going.
Not best you felt, not just physically, but as far as hitting your milepost and your patience and all of that, or basically just physically?
Both.
You mentioned that against the Eagles, you were running more like you expect yourself to. The team also played more like it expects itself. How do you go about building on that this week?
Just keep working, just build on it. We got to pick up where we left off. It can't come out flat Monday night. We definitely can't do that. Division game, prime time, those guys are going to be juiced up, ready to go. So, I mean, we just got to come out and pick up where we left off before the bye week and start fast and play our football.
Zeke, how important is it to come out and set the tone in this game for the second half of the season?
It's important to come out and start off on the right foot. It's the division game, so this one basically counts as 2, and I mean, it's still close in the division. So I mean, these division games are big. Every one of them counts. So just making sure we go out there and take care of business.
Do you feel good about the balance you guys are striking offensively and where you are now between run and pass and how both are playing off of each other?
Yeah, I think we have great balance right now. So I mean, we're able to go out there and take what the defense gives us. If they're going to stack the box, we'll throw the ball. If they want to try to leave that safety out there, we'll run it. But I mean, I think that we have had great balance and just doing a great job. Spreading the ball around, just using all our weapons.
It'll be Zeke against the entire defensive line tonight. Now let's go out to MetLife again, check in with David Hellman and see who his matchup of the evening is. What is up, Dave?
Thanks, Linz. All right, just right down to brass tacks. I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by saying you got to watch out for Saquon Barkley. Newsflash, Saquon Barkley is really good. Let's talk about another couple elements I've got an eye on in this game. Starting with a name you're probably familiar with, Golden Tate. Been all over the league. He's played the Cowboys 8 times in his career. Actually played Dallas 3 times last year, once with the Detroit Lions, twice with the Eagles. He's been back from suspension for 4 weeks. Daniel Jones has already targeted him 36 times per game. I'm not a mathematician, but I know that comes out to about 9 times per game. He's a safety blanket. A lot of crossing routes, a lot of easy opportunities to help Daniel Jones get going. He's not a big play guy so much at this point in his career, but an option that's always going to be there. I think these Cowboys slot cornerbacks, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, both going to play in this game. I think they got their work cut out for them in that matchup. The other obvious one is Evan Engram. You remember him from week 1. He is the classic matchup nightmare tight end. Too big to be a receiver, too small to be a true tight end. He does a little bit of everything. He hit the Cowboys for more than 100 yards in week 1. It's on Jeff Heath. It's on these linebackers to help deal with him. I think they can minimize it because they've done it before, but he always has the capacity to break out. Those are the 2 guys I'm watching in this matchup. If they can bottle them up, I think they got a good chance to win.
Thank you, David. Hope you enjoyed the night and all the press box food there in New York. Have a great time. Let's look at what the rest of the East did this weekend as well as the standings. It's still hard to me to really look at just the Cowboys' record in general. It should be so much better. But, Philly won and Washington lost, of course. But, you really wanted to pull away from Philadelphia. This one, yes, it is the Giants, but cannot emphasize the importance enough tonight.
Not at all. Now, I mean, you see how bunched up that division is. And I had the Washington Redskins at the Buffalo Bills, and they lost again, but they're a different team under Coach Callahan. So that's a game later this year when Dallas goes up there again, a divisional game. You better watch out. Adrian Peterson had 100 yards in the first half. Philly, I mean, they had the game in hand and almost let it slip through their fingers against the Bears. So there was an opportunity for some separation during the course of the bye week, but it didn't happen. So guess what? It's time for you to go out and earn the separation tonight against the New York Giants.
Let's take a look at how Jason Garrett has done against the NFC East. He is 36-19. And Barry, I'll go to you for this. First of all, you know these opponents well. Obviously, you play them twice a year. But second of all, guys like you, Sean Lee, people just shine from, I guess, film study. What is it that you guys succeed so well against these teams?
Well, like you said, we play against these teams twice a year. So you better get to know their personnel pretty good. You get to know their strengths, their weaknesses, how you match up against these personnels. So when Coach Garrett goes out there and he's plays against these, the Eagles, the Giants, the Redskins, he has a pretty much great understanding of what they're trying to do and how they're going to try to attack us as a unit. So, and he's 36-19. So overall, he's been a really successful record against this division. I'm looking forward to it to continue in this tonight.
And I don't want to say this. I don't want it to sound bad, but the East isn't very strong right now. And the question, Moose, has been, How really good is the NFC East? Who is the best for the past 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, it's been one of those divisions that's been kind of up and down. When they get outside the division, they haven't been able to get over that hump. The West has come back onto the scene again. You're waiting for it because there is a lot of good players in this division. There's a lot of good coaches in this division, and I don't know why the records aren't reflective of that right now. I think it's going to be interesting down the stretch. I love the way the NFL has geared the schedule. I think it started about 5-8 years ago, where they really started to backload that month of December with divisional games. I think it's fantastic. So, even if you find yourself into a little bit of a hole because of a poor start, you've got a way to dig yourself out of that. And don't forget, I'm sure that the coaches you played for here were the same way as Jimmy was, but it was always about the division. You were, that was the way to get to the playoffs, was to control your fate in your division. And I think that Jason is following suit with a lot of the messaging that he's given to his players.
That's perfect.
You agree?
I agree, perfect. You win a division, that gives you an opportunity to get to the playoffs, and once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. So I agree with Moose on this one.
And that's exactly how Jason Garrett, it seems like it's been in recent years, is they get to the playoffs and they get that chance. Before we continue, we got to go back out to MetLife, check in with Rob Phillips, who has a special feature on somebody who might deserve a little more credit than he's getting.
Thanks a lot, Lindsay. Dak Prescott credits first-year quarterbacks coach Jon Kitna with a lot of his development this season, his progress. And Kitna's got some creative wisdom. Like, what does baseball have to do with playing the quarterback position? Check it out. There's very little to quibble over Dak Prescott's 2019 season, except for maybe those heat check throws he's referenced before. Prescott is currently top 10 in the NFL in passing yardage, passer rating, and touchdown passes. He's been outstanding. But Prescott acknowledges he's gotten a little greedy at times, forcing passes into coverage in the middle of a hot streak for the offense. It happened in the fourth quarter against the Eagles when he tried to fit a jump ball to Tavon Austin over double coverage up 30-10. The ball was picked off. In fairness, the more vertical a passing game gets, the greater chance for mistakes. Prescott's ranked third in yards per completion this year, a career-high 8.9 through 7 games. I recently asked Kitna about the heat check thing after practice. The first-year quarterbacks coach played 16 years in the league. He passed for nearly 30,000 yards. Surely, many times he felt like he had the hot hand. The question is, how do you balance that momentum with the right decision-making? Kitna calls it the Barry Bonds mindset.
He set the record, broke the record for home runs in a season. He also broke the record for walks in a season. And, so that meant they weren't throwing him pitches to hit, but when they threw him one to hit, he hit it out of the park. That's what we want to have as a quarterback. Like, hey, discipline to say, that's not my pitch, I'm going to check it down. But when it presents itself, let's let it rip.
It's a creative coaching point for Prescott, who's done an excellent job of protecting the ball overall throughout his young career. For DallasCowboys.com, I'm Rob Phillips.
Hearing Dak Prescott talk about his fourth year, guys, he's said the little things have really clicked for me. Like the body movements, the way he throws, all the mechanics. It seems like this year has been the year he nailed it. No coincidence that Jon Kitna has been helping him a lot this past offseason. Yeah,
and as a fourth-round draft pick, there were some things that weren't quite right with his game. So there were things that he had to work on when he came here to the Dallas Cowboys. He had a fantastic rookie campaign. I mean, it was unbelievable. And sometimes you think you caught lightning in a bottle because you couldn't maintain that level, but it was going to be difficult to do that. Now, the thing that's interesting is when somebody tells you about the Barry Bonds theory, and he set the record for home runs the same year he set the record for walks, and you're waiting on that great pitch, and if it's not there, be patient. It can be a coach that's never played the game, and I don't know how much that impacts you, but it's when a guy that's played 16 years in the NFL has passed for almost 30,000 yards. It means a lot more. So the fact that Dak Prescott has Jon Kitna, Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore, all have not, offense coordinator, quarterbacks coach, head coach. They've all played the position. They know what it's like. So when they're giving them the information, it is meaningful. And I don't know anybody else in the NFL that has the luxury that Dak Prescott has to have that much experience around him that's played in the NFL and can give him firsthand information, even during the course of the game. You can walk up on the sideline of the game and see a coverage or something they're doing differently and be able to talk to him about what happened when you were playing something similar to that in your career. So it's amazing what he has at his disposal.
And Kellen Moore calls plays down there on the field. And last year, or the years before, he's sitting next to Dak Prescott on the bench as they're discussing things. So this is like you said, very natural conversations. And I'm sure the lingo is all the same, so that's something that helps him as well. We're going to check in again now with Danny Sarek again, who has another story on another very underappreciated staff member here with the Dallas Cowboys.
This time last year was a bit of a whirlwind for Mark Colombo when his predecessor, Paul Alexander, was fired and Colombo was promoted to offensive line coach. It helps that Colombo was already familiar with the players because he began his coaching career in 2015 in Dallas, first as an assistant, and then the following year was promoted to assistant offensive line coach. When Colombo took over this time last year, the team had no consistency. They were 4-3 with no back-to-back wins. He says at the time, his main focus was getting back to the basics.
We just need some guys to step up and make some plays, and they will.
With us, it all starts with running the football. That was big. Getting back to basics and fundamentals. We got away from that a little bit, and that's something I really wanted to hone in on, just the technique and certain drills that we've done in the past, but kind of put my own little spin on it, and just getting back to basics. When things start to unravel, that's what you got to do. You got back to basics, get back to kind of being who we are.
Although he says it was a difficult task to take over as offensive line coach in the middle of the season, Colombo says those are the situations he thrives in.
I'm a guy you throw me in the fire and I'm coming out. Okay, I'm coming out alive. And that's kind of what happened. I got thrown in the fire. That's when I thrive. When your back's against the wall, thrive mentality. And that's something Coach Garrett preaches, which is, it's for coaches too, not just players. And it's a position I like being in. All right, kind of proving people wrong and proving people what I can do. And you become more confident, with success. All right, and you also become more confident with learning from your mistakes. And that's something that, I've been able to grow quite a bit in a little amount of time.
Colombo says he can describe his coaching style in one word.
I'd say it's intense. The guys would say I'm a pretty intense coach. I harp on attention to detail and stuff like that, but it's about playing with passion, emotion, enthusiasm, that type of stuff. But on the sidelines, you would think I'd be real fiery and, yelling, getting the guys all fired up. It's really the exact opposite of that. We want to get it right in between series. Kind of had to take a step back, from my normal self, wants to just get guys fired up and get going, but that's really not what coaching is. Coaching's all about getting the details right and be able to fix things on the fly and make adjustments, and that's something that we've done a good job with so far.
The passion Colombo coaches with is in his blood from his time as an offensive lineman in the NFL. He was drafted by the Bears in 2002 and spent 2005 through 2010 in Dallas. Colombo says his time as a player allows him to relate to his players now as a coach in a unique way.
It's a benefit to them. It's a benefit to me to just kind of know what they're thinking on a daily basis. I think it gives me kind of an advantage as a coach in that aspect.
During his time as a Cowboy, Colombo wasn't just hitting his keys on the field, he was also hitting them on his guitar with his band Free Reign.
That formed here. A buddy of mine, Corey Proctor, he played drums. Obviously he was a backup center guard here for a while. And Leonard Davis, who my partner in crime was, he played guard next to me. He played bass, and I played guitar, and I've always loved writing songs. So that was something we kind of came together, and every once in a while, Coach Garrett will have a party every year, and I'll go play his party pretty much the whole entire time. So that's kind of fun.
Colombo says after he retired from football, he didn't try to pursue music. However, he never imagined he would end up where he is now.
I never thought in a million years I'd be coaching for the Dallas Cowboys, and I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. My kids are a part of it. My wife's a part of it. I plan on wearing a jacket or something with a star on there, no matter what position I'm in the Cowboys organization.
Colombo Colombo says he finds himself coaching with qualities he had in his coaches as a player, including Bill Parcells. Colombo says with Parcells, you couldn't be hurt. He says that's not a knock on the training staff. However, Parcells did not like his players to be in the training room. Colombo says if you had an ankle injury, you were more than likely practicing the next day. And that's something he says he struggles with a little bit now as a coach, is seeing players on the sideline missing practice. Lindsay.
Thank you for that feature, Danny. Can either of you guys relate to that? A little bring back memories?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The difference between pain and injury.
Oh, yeah. Very thin line.
Barry, we talk about it all the time, but you got a huge scar right here. Remember with Barry with the club out there
yeah.
right after surgery? Yeah, get back out there, big guy. Make some tackles. First of all, I would love to play for a guy like that.
Yeah.
You have Colombo, and then you have Kellen Moore, who's 32, I believe. So you have these young, relatable guys and such a young Cowboys team. That has to matter, right? As far as just the way they communicate, the way they're able to click and do their thing out there.
Chemistry is such a huge part of the dynamic of a team, and you have to have the talent, but then you also have to have that chemistry, that culture that's been created. And you bring up a bunch of names on the staff here, and we just talked about, 3 key people for the offensive staff, and then to add Mark Colombo, another former player that you can go to for information. I love the intensity. I love that his one word was, what's your coaching style? It's intense. It should be. It needs to be. So that's great stuff.
Oh, yeah, and as a player, I mean, he was one of the most intense guys I've ever met in my life, and his passion was unmatched. And he brought his style from playing to coaching. I mean, when I first met the guy, very first time ever meeting him, I was on the scout team, he was on the offense, and we were going through one of the plays, and I guess I gave the offense a wrong look, and he ripped me a new one. I mean, first time ever meeting this guy, he ripped me a new one, but that just shows the type of intensity and the type of passion he had for the game, and he's taking that straight into coaching, and he's doing an amazing job for this offensive line.
They love him, and they're a tight-knit group. Let's check in with Kellen Moore on his expectations for tonight as the Cowboys line up against the Giants.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, obviously, just from the foundation aspect of guys who've been doing it since April, and even before that in so many ways. So those tweaks and those minor adjustments obviously are a little easier because certainly all kind of the standard stuff obviously kind of applies, and we're good to go. And sometimes you got to deal with personnel issues and different things going through, and sometimes maybe honing in on making sure we know what we're doing. Sometimes comes into effect.
When you see your numbers this year offensively, and you look back last year, are you kind of like, wow, we are doing pretty good?
No, obviously we feel like we're doing some good things.
Yeah.
You go through the process of bye week and you say there's still plenty of things to clean up and a lot of things to do better. But I think it's a good process. Obviously we feel like we're playing some good ball, but so there's plenty of things to clean up.
I think you try not to overanalyze everything, especially coming out of the bye week when you do the self-evaluations.
Yeah, I think it's just the sample size, recognizing one big run can make this play's averaging 20 yards a carry, right? Oh, there's 3 of them. So you kind of recognize all those things, and also some of the negatives. You don't want to say, oh, this play isn't any good because maybe we threw a pick on it or something. It's like you recognize those things, but you also I think go through that process to learn about yourself, and I think it's a really good opportunity. I think it's a nice timing for the bye week.
The offense moves with the creativity of Kellen Moore. And also with the success of kicker Brett Maher. And the Cowboys fans and people who have watched our shows have heard me say that this is what the coaching staff accepted who he is. He is a player who can make one from 64 yards, but he might miss one from 32. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that, about Brett Maher? And he's 10 of 14. And just, I guess, are you happy with him?
I think the best thing he's done is he worked himself out of that slump that he was in when he went through that 2-week stretch where things were going well and there was a lot of outside voices that were complaining. What kickers need to do is self-reflect and just keep working and grind through it. For me, I love the big leg, but you're going to do that end of half, end of game. What he needs to work on is the consistency from 35 to 45. That's where you make your hay as a kicker. The red zone defenses are so difficult in the NFL today. It's such a hard thing to do to score a touchdown, to the point where a lot of teams have special offenses from the 25-yard line when they're coming in, trying to score from the 25 and out, because it's a little bit easier at that point with the big play. When you get stalled down there, he's got to be consistent from that 35 to 45-yard range. Love the distance that he has, love the big kick, but he's got to be more consistent in those really money slots in there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, I love his range. I mean, like you said, he's hit 2 60-plus yarders here this season so far, but I'm more about the consistency. Like you said, I mean, you're not going to hit many 60. You're not going to have to hit too many 60-yard bombs out here in the NFL. It's more about that 35 to 45-yard range, and that's what made Dan Bailey all his money back in the day. Is he was able to be consistent between 35 and 45 yards, which pretty much every kicker in the NFL needs to be. And if he can get more consistent at that, I feel like he'll get his nickname back in Money Maher.
Money Maher. Let's go. I heard someone say, Moose, you'll like this. The Maserati doesn't go under 60. Yeah, I think that's pretty funny. Let's go back out to MetLife and check in with Nick and Rob, who are now joined by Stephen Jones.
Thank you, Lindsay. And we are joined again by Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. And Stephen, last time we were here, obviously this didn't go like we wanted it to. So how are things going to be different in your mind? I know obviously it's a different opponent, but you feel like this team's a lot more healthier than they were the last time.
Well, certainly the health helps, but the bigger thing we have to do, which has been our winning formula, is start fast. When we drive the ball, let's convert it into touchdowns. Let's execute out there and, do our job. And unfortunately, against the Jets, we didn't do that. We started off slow. We had some turnovers that killed drives. We had some negative plays that killed drives. And, we got ourselves behind the 8 ball and couldn't come back. So, but if we go out and play Cowboys football the way we know we can and execute and do what we do, we've got a healthy club tonight. We, should be able to get a win here if we do our job.
Steven, second year in a row, you guys are active at the trade deadline. You bring in Michael Bennett. What have you seen from him since you brought him over? What do you like about him, and what do you expect from him tonight?
Well, we're just, think he can really make a difference for us. Obviously, when we lost Tyrone Crawford, that was a tough one for us. He's the leader in that room, brings a lot to the table, but I think getting Michael Bennett's going to really help offset that. We've had to play against him against the Seahawks, against the Eagles, and then, of course, got him from the Pats. But I think he's going to really bring some pressure for us, and being able to be out there with Malik and Tank and Quinn, I think that'll make for a formidable group.
One guy you won't have on that defense is Leighton Vander Esch. Is that something that you're worried about at all in the next few weeks, or is this one of those things where he just wasn't ready to go tonight?
We just didn't think he was quite ready, and of course got some great depth there with Sean Lee and Joe Thomas, and so we felt really good about just wanting to make sure that Leighton is full go when he goes out there with that neck, and I'm going to be very surprised if it's not sooner than later when he gets back on the field.
Dak played one of his best games as a Cowboy last year here against the Giants. One of the best throws maybe he's ever made, too. Did you learn anything different about him, anything new about him, the way he performed in that game, Week 17 last year?
Well, he's just a winner. I can go on and on about Dak. I mean, he's got all the intangibles. He's got the it factor. He's got an insatiable appetite to be great. As good as he was in Week 17, I think he's improved his game in all areas this season. And I fully expect him to come out and lead this team and, play at a really high level.
Well, before we let you go, I'm not going to not ask you about the Razorbacks. And John Stephen Jones with another great touchdown pass. It's going to start next week. You've got to be so excited about this.
Well, we're just so pumped, and just know that how hard he's worked, and great that he's getting an opportunity here, and hopefully he'll go out there and have success.
There's no doubt where you're going to be next Saturday morning, I guess, when they kick off.
I'll be there in Fayetteville. So.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
That's Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. We'll throw it back to Lindsay and the crew.
Thanks, guys. Stay warm out there. And Woo Pig Suey's John Stephen Jones. Let's get into the keys to the game before we close this thing out. So you got the Giants who are struggling and reeling, but you can't look away. They might do something out there with Daniel Jones. And then the Cowboys who need to build on what they did against Philadelphia. 4 turnovers 2 weeks ago. What is your key to the game, Barry? I'll go to you first.
Okay, well, my key to the game, we can't sleep on Daniel Jones. That's one. But my key to the game, you got to slow down or figure out a way to contain Saquon Barkley and Evan Engram. Saquon Barkley, arguably the top running back in the game. He's a threat to run in between the tackles. He's explosive to run outside the tackles, and he can catch the ball great out of the backfield. So you got to find a way to contain him. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is you got to hustle to the ball and you got to gang tackle. You can't just rely on one person bringing his guys down. He's breaking many tackles over this season so far. You don't want to be on that highlight reel. So if you can gang tackle and what we call keeping the cup, then you should be fine against this guy. Now, when it comes to Evan Engram, you got to be able to beat him up at the line of scrimmage. He's a tight end, which he's not a very inline tight end, but he kind of of moves outside in the slot area that sometimes. But if you can beat him up at the line of scrimmage, get your hands on him, knock off his route, make Daniel Jones look off from him to somebody else, you might have a chance of slowing him down as well. But if you can get that, if our defense can get that done, they have a chance tonight.
They keyed in with Rod Marinelli on that defense, and Daniel Jones is known to turn the ball over. I mean, a rookie quarterback, that's going to happen. And I love what you said about Saquon Barkley, because he can rip off a 8-yard run, 9-yard run, 10-yard, 70-yard run.
Yeah.
That's the way he plays. So give me your key, Moose.
Well, I don't want to get too cliche with everything, but there is one football adage out there that I think rings true for tonight, and that's when you travel and you go on the road, you need to bring your defense and your running game with you. So defense and the running game have to play well tonight. But the one thing that concerns me, and it's one of those ones that's kind of under a couple of layers, is we got to have Lyle Collins and Tyron Smith stay healthy tonight. With Cameron Fleming out as your swing tackle, if anything happens there, Brandon Knight comes in. He's a young guy that would be put on the big stage of Monday Night Football in a tough situation, and that will change what you're going to be able to do offensively, because your entire protection plan would change. So let's keep our fingers crossed that those two tackles stay healthy tonight.
I know you are all home, giving a huge round of applause. Thank you so much, Barry Church, Daryl Moose Johnston, for joining Pregame Live tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. And Cowboys kick off 7:15 on ESPN. We'll see you right here after, immediately following the game, for the first word reaction. We'll see you then.
Frisco was brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. SWBC Mortgage, financial solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. Want to tour AT&T Stadium? For more information, call 817-892-TOUR or visit DallasCowboys.com/tours.